All right, in the mood to make another video here back to back. So this one will be What Would Jesus Do Part 2. And another one of Jesus' commands or sayings. So, because they're so close together, I will address this as well. Uh, Jesus in Matthew 19, he's talking about, haven't you read, God in the beginning made a male and female. This is the reason why man leaves his father and mother, cleaves to his wife. And then he says, they're no more two, but one flesh. What God has put together, let no man put asunder. And then they ask, well, then why did Moses command to give a writing of divorcement to put her away? Now, this is a big problem here because Moses claims that the statutes, the judgments, and the laws came from God. Moses claimed to be talking on God's behalf. So this is a problem because it says don't add or take away from the word, from the law, and Jesus here is clearly changing the law. Uh, Moses in the law said that if you don't like your wife, don't whatever, you can divorce her. Jesus says Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, allowed you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. So it's a pretty big complication here. Jesus is supposed to be God in the flesh. Yes? No? That's what it says, right? That's what everybody believes. Jesus here, God in the flesh, just corrected people by saying that, yeah, Moses, he was allowing you to sin. So God, the law, it says that the law, transgression of the law is sin. That's what it says. If you want to know what sin is, you look at the law. Oopsie, forgot that one. Moses allowed you guys to sin, but from the beginning it wasn't so. That's what he's saying, because now he's saying if you divorce your wife, and then it depends on which gospel it is, but this one says except fornication and you marry another, you commit adultery. That's sin. In fact, that adultery is punishable by death. And whosoever marries her that is put away commits adultery. Uh, yeah, the law doesn't say that. And the law is supposed to define sin. Moses claims that he got his information from God. God kind of forgot to mention that one. Oops. Not only that, but men were allowed to have multiple wives. Yeah, there is no thou shalt not have more than one wife. And in fact, it says if you take another wife, her food or raiment, her duty of marriage shall not be diminished. So that's in Exodus 21. The Ten Commandments were in Exodus 20. You think he might have said something? When describing sexual sins, he says don't have sex with your aunt, don't have sex with your mother, don't have sex with your sister, don't have sex with animals, don't have sex with guys. Oh, and by the way, don't have sex with a mother and a daughter, and don't have sex with two sisters at the same time. Sounds to me like that's addressing polygamy. Nope. Jesus comes along and says, oh, by the way, adultery is sin, or divorce creates adultery. If you or your wife marry somebody else, you're in adultery. That is clearly changing the law. And then it brings greater ramifications because you're either adding, subtracting, you're altering the law. And the law clearly states don't add, don't take away. Jesus is clearly changing that. And you can say, well, Jesus is God. Well, then God is schizophrenic because he told Moses these things according to Moses. Hey, I got this stuff from God. And now God is saying, well, that was Moses that allowed you to get divorced. What would Jesus do? Jesus would change the law. Now, secondly, where I want to go with this is they say, well, hey, if this if the case be so with the man, it's good not to marry. So this is Jesus' response. All men cannot receive this saying, save whom it is given. There are some eunuchs. By the way, if you don't know what a eunuch is, it's somebody who's had his penis removed or his testicles removed so that his junk does not work anymore. All right? Just FYI. And it says there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb. There are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. And there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Jesus doesn't have a problem with you either cutting your balls off or cutting your dick off for the kingdom's sake. That's what it says. He doesn't say, hey, don't do that. Don't mutilate yourself or harm yourself for the kingdom's sake. He says there's some that do that, but it's not for everybody. Now, in the Old Testament, in the law, if a man was injured in his private parts, he was barred from going to church, basically. Yeah, for a long time. I think it was multiple generations even. No, scrap that one. I have to go back to look because these studies are just off the top of my head. But yes, what is fact is if you were injured in the stones or in your private parts, you could not go to church. So now Jesus is coming along and saying he does not have a problem if you make yourself a eunuch, hurting yourselves in the stones, your junk. He says he has no problem with that, but it's not for everybody. So he's literally giving the okay, which the law says if you're injured, you can't go to church, you can't go to synagogue. Jesus is coming along and saying, yeah, don't worry about it. Some people make themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of God's sake. And that's okay. Not everybody's able to receive it. What would Jesus do? He would say, hey, buddy, if you want to focus on being more in tune with God and not getting distracted by the lust of women and all that, yeah, cut your pecker off or cut your nuts off. I have no problems with that. And if you think I'm twisting the scriptures, tell me that's not what it says. Tell me if you tell me that's not what it says, then tell me what it does say, because I am simply repeating exactly what it says. What would Jesus do? Jesus would tell you it's okay to cut your balls or your dick off for the kingdom of God's sake.